Hi, I'm Terry Forbes, and I am your host for the Gasham Football Podcast. This is podcast number 4, and I'm looking forward to talking football with you again. And today we're going to talk about our multiple shifts and how they can create chaos in the defense. These shifts will also have the defense do quite a bit of running before the ball is even snapped. So that's coming up. Now, the shifts we will run will be decided on the weekend before the game. So by Sunday, we will know the exact shifts that we're going to run, and we will not change them on a Tuesday or Wednesday or anything midweek. We'll stay with those exact shifts. If for whatever reason the team is not adjusting to a shift, having trouble remembering it, something is wrong. You just don't feel right. You thought it would be great on Sunday, but it's not working out. Get rid of it. Don't have it in the game plan. Then your decision is the play that you're going to run after the shift. Is it a strong play in its own right without a shift? Do you want to keep it in the game plan as just that play, or do you want to get rid of it entirely? So that's your choice on what you do there. We will not shift 1 to 3 players, and the reason we won't shift a small number of players is the same as why we don't do motion. The biggest reason is in our offense, we want to snap the ball within 4 seconds of when the quarterback says break. And you will not be able to do that if you shift 1 to 3 players. And the defense, when you shift 1 to 3 players, at the most 3 or 4 players will move on the defense. And that means that there are 7 or 8 players who have an extra 5 seconds or 7 seconds to just dig in and to get ready to come off the ball on the snap and are ready to play aggressive football. And we don't want that. We don't want the defense to be aggressive. We are going to shift 7 to 10 players on our multiple player shifts. Now, if you think about that, we have come out of the huddle and we have lined up in a formation, and it's an unusual formation. And the defense is strained. They got to think about, okay, where am I supposed to line up on this? What did the coach tell me? They're trying to get it right. And all at once, our quarterback says, shift now. And we go to a completely different formation, which has completely different problems for them and stuff for them to think about and to adjust to. We think that that is going to really hurt their aggressiveness because they're going to be thinking so much on 2 different formations before the ball is snapped. Now, let's talk about how we can get the play into the game. We do have an extra step there where we're shifting at the line of scrimmage. So let's start right from the coach. He has to anticipate, okay, I'm going to use a shift. So he's got to get that to the quarterback even quicker than he normally does. So he's got to, might do it the first play of a series, or if he does it in the middle of the series, that's fine, but he's got to get it in quick. The quarterback very, very quickly, right after he hears it, has to talk to the team. And he'll say, listen up, and let's use an example, this play, cat right, shift to Louis stretch. And then he will say the word quick. Now the word quick is going to have meaning to the team, and that's going to say you will not have 5 or 10 seconds like we normally do for you to get your equipment straight and for you to visualize the play. You're only going to have 2 or 3 seconds. And so after 2 or 3 seconds, quarterback has said quick, he says sugar. And then he gives the name of the play, and boom, we are up to onto the line of scrimmage and ready to go. So it just makes our players go a little faster. Now they have a couple more seconds to think of the play than a conventional offense, but not as much as we normally allow them to have. Okay, now is a time also to tell you that anything that happens before the football is snapped, we will not be penalized for as far as an alignment problem. You could have 6 or 7 guys in the backfield, not a penalty. You can line up any way you want and look like you're ready to go, and you will not be penalized until the ball is snapped. So that just means if, for example, you might have 10 guys lined up right in your pre-shift formation, and one guy doesn't know where he's at for whatever reason, you're not going to be penalized for that. You can just, quarterback can say shift now, and you go to your post-shift formation and line up and run the play. And as long as he knows what he's supposed to do, then you'll be in good shape. So that's something for you to know. The defense doesn't necessarily know that rule. And so later on, you can line up in some pretty exotic looking formations and make it look like you're ready to snap the ball and then shift to something else. But that's for another day. That's down the line. Okay, let's talk, and let me give you a nugget. A lot of people have asked, how did I come up with Gasham? Where did you think this up? Well, here's the way it started. About 3 years ago, I was watching a college football game just as a fan and came on halftime highlights. And that particular day on the halftime highlights, about half of them were trick plays. Now, usually there's 1 or maybe 2, but there are about half of them on this particular day. And the thought occurs to me, I wonder if you could get a full offense just using trick plays. And about half a second later, I think, no, probably wouldn't work, because if you could, somebody probably already would have done it. Well, it took me almost a year to kind of understand this and realize that that was very faulty thinking that I had. That there's a reason, well, there are 3 reasons, I believe, for why no one is running the Gasham offense now. And I will give you those 3 reasons at the end of this podcast. And something for you to look forward to. But, so I start off with these trick plays. And I find out that there's a lot of them. But most of them you can't run very often. You could run 3 times during a season at the most, some of them. And I kept running across other plays that were very explosive in nature. And these plays were run mostly from conventional offenses by some of the best teams in the country, whether they be college teams or sometimes pro teams. And you look at it and you say, that play should work against just about any defense. And that, we can get people wide open as receivers, or we can have a big advantage when we run the ball, more blockers than they have defenders. And so those are good plays. Those are Gasham plays. And that's basically the way Gasham was born. And now we have, out of our plays, probably 80% of them are explosive plays that are from conventional formations, and the other 20% are what people might consider trick plays. Okay, now, if all that you've heard in the first 3 podcasts and a little bit here, if you are thinking, you know, the Gasham offense, if I was a defensive coach, it'd be tough to stop. How would you stop that? And how would your defense react to it? If you're thinking that now, then I really want to talk to you about these shifts of multiple players. Because while the Gasham offense is very explosive, as you know, the Gasham offense with their multiple player shifts is like an explosive offense on steroids. So let's look at these shifts. Let's start by looking at two clips that show multiple formations and multiple player shifts. There aren't very many, so you can't see very many, but we have one at the pro level and one at the high school level. Okay, in this particular play, it shows the play after the multiple shift has already taken place. But as you see, this Cincinnati Bengals have 3 blockers out here and a guy behind to catch the ball. And the Houston Texans only have basically 2 guys here. One guy not too far and this guy back quite a bit. That's a great situation for the Cincinnati Bengals to have come into. So they are in good shape. Let's look at the play. And he wanted to throw this quick pass out here because he's got the mismatch. 3 blockers on 2. Results in a real nice 15 to 20 yard gain. Now you'll get a chance to look at the shift in the replay. They start, everybody's in here tight. And let's go back because this is important. I want you to see that where the defense is. Because this will be where defenses are going to be in the Gasham offense all the time. We'd be back in our huddle 3 yards from the ball or on a line of scrimmage like this, and everybody's going to be in the middle. They don't know where we're going. So if we happen to run 6 guys out here to the numbers, they'd have to take off from here and run out there to get some defenders out there to stop a play that we might have. But let's see what the Bengals are doing. They're shifting and they're crossing. Some guys are coming this side, other guys are going to this side. These guys are just talking, trying to figure out what's going on. They're pros, they have a little time to communicate. And this guy realizes, oh, we got a big problem down here. There's 2 of us and there's 3 of them. And these are pro players, so they wind up, they're pretty good. That they can they're not going to miss a block, let's put it that way. And you already saw the play. So, that is a pro team not being able to handle a multiple player shift. You can imagine what it would be like for a college team or a high school team. And we're going to show you a high school team right now. Okay, and here's a high school team down at the goal line at the 2 or 3 yard line going against another high school team in the white. And they're going to make a multiple player shift. Now it's going to be a slow and sloppy shift. It will not be a great shift by Gasham standards for sure. But they're still going to get some results because they're going to really confuse the defense. These guys are trying to stop a play for 2 yards, and they don't look like they have the intensity of knowing what they're doing because they lined up heavily unbalanced. Now they all shift to different places. So they've got, with the center here, 2 on this side, 4 on this side, plus a wing back, plus 2 other backs. They get everybody to this side, and the defense has not adjusted yet. You could see if they just had the ball here and just ran something right in this area, there's nobody to stop them. This guy's inside quite a bit. This guy's behind. They'd have trouble. Now they're starting to move. If you give them time, they will adjust. The Gasham offense will not give them that time. Now they did it slow, they did it sloppy, and they come up with a play that I don't know why they would do this, but they throw the ball behind their head. This guy did catch it, so they got their points. But I just wanted you to see the defense, and I wanted you to see a high school team not responding at all to a multiple player shift, even if it was a bad one. Okay, this is our first shift we're going to talk about. Louis shift to Roger slash. And here's our Louis formation that we've come out of our sugar huddle and lined up in. And you'll notice that we have all 4 linemen to the left of the center. And we only have 1 player to the right, 5 to the left. So this is an unbalanced line with 2 people moved over. That's why we call it Louis. If we have 1 person move over, we will call it Len. But in this one, we have 2 people move over, and it's Louis, a 2-syllable word. Okay. Now, if the defense, you can see we have about 80% of our strength to the left in this formation. If the defense puts 50% of their strength to the short side and 50% to the strength, we're going to run here all day to our strength because we've got more people there than they do. If we have 80% and they only have 50%. So we're just going to keep pounding that until, and when I say pounding it, sometimes we're going to pound them with 30-yard runs because we get all the way through there in a open gap. So eventually they are going to have to adjust some. And when they adjust, which we expect they will eventually do, sometimes may do it very quickly, then we can turn to other things. And the shift is one beauty because it's so quick and changes so much for them. If you're a defensive coach and they come out 2 people unbalanced, you got some teaching to do and some talking to do to get your guys lined up where you want them. Okay, but all at once, we line up like this in Louis. Quarterback says, shift now. And what happens is that these 6 guys, all but the center, take a step back. The quarterback takes a step back. And all 6 of them shuffle, like a basketball shuffle, as fast as they can to the right. And they wind up in this formation right here, in the same order, TGDC as they started, TGDC, left to right. So you can see, and it doesn't take long to shuffle 5 yards full speed. But we're going to call the shift when the defense is down in their stances and they're ready and they finally adjusted to this unbalanced. And now we're going to be too unbalanced to the right in Roger. So they get a problem. They got to take their people who are now 80% to this side, and they got to get them down to this side to get enough people over here. And my guess, particularly in the beginning, is it's going to be awful tough for them to do it because they don't know that we're going to do this. They don't know we're going to shift. And when we do shift, they're going to, if they slide down 2 to get so that 80% are on this side, and they got to slide 4 people to their right, but they've never practiced that. They've never done it. They certainly aren't going to do it as fast as we do it. So we're going to be able to snap the ball and have a big advantage to this side. And that's what we want, a big advantage at the point of attack. Next one, let's look at cat right, shift to cat left, screen. So we start here in cat right. You notice we have a group of 6 to the right, 2 in the center, 3 receivers to the left. And basically, these 2 groups switch to get to cat left, where the group of 6 is to the left and the group of 3 is to the right. Now, some people might say, well, what if the defense just saw that you were switching entirely and they just stayed where they were? Well, they got a problem for 2 reasons. Number one is we got 6 guys on this side and 3 guys on this side. So when they switch, it's not an even switch. We got 6 guys coming over here, and they might have started with 3 guys over on this side. So if they just stay there, they only have 3 guys. We got 6. Big advantage. We're going to throw the ball out this way. So also, look at it. When it started out, we got 3 receivers to decide. Well, you're not going to put linemen over there. You're going to put defensive backs over there to cover them. Okay, so if we switch them and they don't move, these are defensive backs. They got 3 defensive backs trying to stop, and we're blocking them with our tackles and our guards and our big guys. So you can see that they got to move. And once they realize they have to run, that means what we are doing is they start off like this, and all our defensive linemen who were in the middle, just like the Houston Texans you just saw on film, they're all in the middle. They see that all our linemen go over here. We're running because we know where we're going. They're running late because they see us, and they're flying to get over there and hoping to get there before we snap the ball. And then we say, shift now. Boom. All once these guys run all the way across the field and wind up here, and the defensive linemen have to get out of their stance. They don't know what we're doing. All they know is this guy's running across. Some of them will run hard, others might not. Some of them will run in the first quarter, won't run in the second quarter as hard. Some of them will run to get over here, and then we run the play, throw the ball to him, and he gets through the line, and they won't chase him as hard because they're tired. And that's what happens when we have this kind of a multiple shift. We're putting great pressure on the defense when we do something like this, and we'll have time to do it. Next one. Puma right, shift to Louis stretch. So we start off in Puma right. That's the formation where you got 9 different guys to the right, 2 in the center, nobody to the left, the wide side of the field. So they got to have most of their guys. They'll have some guys to the wide side, but they got to have most of their guys here, or else we'll just keep running there. Okay? Keep throwing the ball to R and let these guys block, and we'll have a numbers advantage. Okay. So once they have their guys over here, okay, they're lined up over here, we shift back. Now we don't go all the way, but we wind up in a Louis formation. So we're not balanced. We could come back to a balanced formation. We go to a Louis. They've got to notice that we were unbalanced quickly. As they're coming back, we are faking to the running back right here. And I have a feeling there's a good chance that that's going to stop some of these guys who are coming across, and maybe they want to tackle the guy that's being faked to. And here comes the guy with the football, H, running right there, and may have an open course on a basic running play. So it's a way to make a basic running play one that can be a big gainer for you because of the shift. Okay, and this shift, we are going to start out in Puma left, and we're going to shift to the play Tennessee quads. Now, you have seen Tennessee quads on a prior podcast, and that's the one, if you remember, Y is lined up here, is ineligible because X is also on a line of scrimmage. They're both on a line of scrimmage, and Y is ineligible, but he can act like a receiver. He can do whatever he wants behind the line as long as he doesn't go downfield, doesn't catch the pass. So he bellies back, and they had a defender cover him. H and Z went deep and came to the inside, and they each had a guy cover them, and they ran out of people. In the film you saw, the pass was completed to H on his wheel route. He went for about 40 yards till a guy tried to tackle him. He broke that tackle and wound up going for a 70-yard touchdown. So this is a good play by itself. It is a drop-back pass, but you got 6 blockers. Now, it gets better if we do it from Puma. Because when we put all our guys, we come out of our huddle like this, and we get ready to act like we are going to snap the ball in Puma. And so the defense has to quickly rush over here. We got nobody to this side. They got to put most of their guys at least over here so that we don't just keep throwing it to R and making chunks of yards down the field. So their linemen are basically in this area, and all at once we shift back real fast into a conventional formation, and they have to shift with us. And they have to run with us. So we like this because we have basically a drop back pass, and we're taking a defensive end, let's say, who has run out here, he's run back, he's outside of C now, he's got to rush the passer. And he's not going to be able to do that as good as he would if he had lined up there and got a chance to dig in and get a great start. When he runs back, he may not get a great start. He might be a half second slower. And it just makes our pass blocking better. Now, we have to pass block, and we expect to be good at pass blocking. But we may as well take every advantage we can. And if we can have tired defensive linemen who are not ready at the snap, we'll pick that every time, rather than having guys who are not. Also, you see that when you line up here like this, we chose Puma left because everybody's going to be over here, including most of the defensive backs, and then we're going to shift to a formation with 4 defensive backs to the right. Well, they may only get 2 or 3 over there, and that'll make this play that much better. So we think Puma left is a good formation to shift into, and it would be wiser to shift from Puma left than it would be from Puma right, because then we leave the defensive backs, they start off on this side, and then we basically come to them. So that is Puma left, shift to Tennessee quads. Okay, let's go to a nugget now. And this nugget is going to be something that I did at 3 different high schools, from the small rural high school to the large urban high school. Worked equally well at all 3 schools, so I thought that was significant. And what it is, it's a 1-page propaganda page, basically from the high school head coach to the student body. So it goes out to the peers of my players, their girlfriends, their buddies, the people who they really value, and so it's really significant that it goes out right to them. Now, what this is, again, it's a 1-page deal. It has a rough idea. It talks about the score of the game and who we played, but it doesn't have to follow it anything like a newspaper article. Doesn't tell all the scores and who made the touchdowns and who got the yards. No, it's from the coach, what he wants a student body to know and what can motivate his players. For example, we would oftentimes lean it pretty hard towards the offensive linemen and mention a few of them by name that had particularly good games in the last game. And we would talk about the scout team players, maybe the sophomores who are up and coming, some of them who aren't too far from being able to help us, and we're trying to get them advanced a little more. So we just by mentioning their name and sometimes maybe making a comment. You always want it to be positive, but you can say just a little more consistency and he's going to be a football player for us. Well, he reads that and his buddies read it, and all at once he's going to be trying to be really consistent. So it worked out awfully good. We did it back in the age of paper, when paper was actually being used. So you can't do that now. I'll tell you how we did it, and you adjust it to the social media framework that you need to do it now. So we would have a student come in on Sunday evening after we'd looked at all the films, and I would dictate from notes what I wanted to say in Bulldog Pride. And she would do shorthand, or you could use a pocket tape recorder or something, so that I could flow and the words could come out, wouldn't take a whole lot of time, and that we could talk about what I wanted to say. So you would do different things. You'd start it off with kind of a human interest thing when there was one. I remember at Black River we had a linebacker named Ted Spidell. And Spidell was a first-year starter, good player, senior, didn't get a whole lot of attention. But River Pride had him as the lead paragraph saying on Ted Spidell's birthday he played the best game he has ever played. And we talked about that. And then I remember one at Canton McKinley. We had 3 great tailbacks one year. And the 2 senior tailbacks were only tailbacks. They could not play wide receiver. They could not play defense. They were tailbacks, and they were good. And then our 3rd tailback did start at slot back for us, and he was very good. In fact, he went on to play for the New York Jets in the NFL. So he was a legitimate guy. And all 3 of them were making 7-8 yards every carry and averaging that. And the 2 seniors particularly, I was concerned a little bit because they were good enough. In other schools, they would be the guy. They'd carry it 20, 25 times a game and have 190 yards, and they would be very, very good and be the man. Well, at McKinley, they were part of a group that were getting yards and playing a position very well, but they were sharing carries. And I never happened, but I was concerned that they might be some chirping in the locker room, I can't believe I only carried the ball 7 times this game and I gained 62 yards, and how come I don't get the ball anymore? I'm better than that guy. And the other guy has good right to say, I'm better than that guy, turning it around and saying the same thing, and that was a possibility. So I decided to cut it off at the pass, and early in our season, there was one game, and I said, in the new paragraph, our tailback position carried the ball 26 times for 252 yards last night. And our 3 tailbacks, and I named the names, are good enough that they could start and carry the ball a lot at every team. But they know how good all 3 of them are. And so they are willing to share carries. They root for each other. They care about each other. And they're great team players. And then we went on to talk about something else. And it just tickled me because I know what I'd done is to set a standard for them that they could not now chirp about to their friends. I should get the ball more. How come I don't get the ball? Because the friend would say, hey, I read you're such a great team player. What the heck's going on? And you kind of eliminate that possibility. So you can put in whatever fits that's going to motivate your team. Most of it, we kept it very positive. Every so often, we'd have a little subtlety in there. If there was just one thing that somebody, for whatever reason, wasn't working quite hard enough, wasn't quite doing everything that we wanted, we'd say, boy, he's really talented and he's coming along and he's going to be a very good player. And we're just hoping he gets more consistency. And that perhaps would be something, okay, the whole school season. Because what we would do, we started off made a mistake. We do hand them out Monday in homerooms and in the morning, and we'd hand out 20 per homeroom, and that was too many because there weren't 20 people that cared about seeing that. So it was a lot, the papers would get on the floor, teachers would get upset, understandably, and what we wound up doing is only giving out like 3 to each homeroom. And then they were at a premium. Everybody wanted to get Bulldog Pride. So much so that our players, let's say Nordonia, where we had Night Pride. At Nordonia, our players would rather get their name mentioned in Night Pride than in the Cleveland Plain Dealer that would have a million circulation because it was more important what their peers read and what their peers thought about them than the million people in the Cleveland area. Okay, let's look at 3 more multiple player shifts that would draw some problems for the defense. First one is stack, shift to leopard, double pass to the snapper. We're starting off in our stack formation, which has 5 different stacks spread across the entire field. So that is going to be a very unusual formation, and one that the defense is going to have to be very careful how they line up to it. We will be able to, one thing we can do is we can see how they line up to it. And if in fact they don't line up very well, let's say they don't have anybody out here over seeing X, we can throw the ball to X and have a great play from it. So one of the advantages of shifting is you can see how people line up to your unusual formations. But in this particular play, we will line up in this, and then we will go to leopard formation. Our players, wherever they're at, G will know that he has to wind up over here. Everybody will know how they have to go. So they will go quickly, and of course it's on the same line, so G would basically go to right here, and this is just a picture of it up above. So there is leopard. Now you notice leopard is in the cat family, and cat has a group of 6, if you remember right, plus 2 in the middle, and then 3 receivers. Leopard, as you see it, has 6 blockers and a back behind, so they have a group of 7 to 2 receivers. So one of the receivers and one extra guy is out on this side. We won't use leopard very often, but we will use cat quite a bit. So when we shift into this, it's going to look like we're shifting into cat. And we're kind of counting on the defense to line up the way they would for cat. And they might have extra guys over here because they expect there's going to be 3 guys over there, but there's only 2. Okay, so what's unusual about leopard? Well, if you look at it, what's unusual to leopard is that the fellow who snaps the ball to the quarterback is on the end of the line of scrimmage. Both of these 2 receivers are off the line of scrimmage, and these are the 7 people who are on the line of scrimmage. So it's a legal formation, and he is eligible. Normally, center's not eligible in cat. So what we're going to do is the quarterback is going to get the snap. He's going to throw a backward pass to R. The snapper is going to delay a little bit and go downfield, and R is going to throw a double pass. Now, we like R throwing the ball rather than having the quarterback throw the ball just because the angle's so much better. It's easier to catch this pass than it is a pass over your head where you're trying to look up and get the timing of that. So, now you notice I have X there. You have 2 ways you could do this. You can have the center shift over here, okay, and be part of this line, the regular center, and you can teach your X receiver that he's got to be able to snap and not draw attention to himself. He'll have an eligible number already, and that will be a legal play. Your other option, depending if you wanted to, you could have your center be here, and you could have X as one of these guys along the line, and have your regular center catch the pass. The only thing, he has to have a jersey number that would be eligible. And I'd recommend a jersey number like 98, which is a good number to, it's an eligible number, but one you don't see a whole lot. Certainly not people catching passes at 98. And you would have to slip it over his jersey and maybe run this play on the first play of a series. Okay? So it is a play that requires some work and a little finagling if you're going to put an extra jersey on a guy or something, but it can pay big dividends if they aren't covering the center right down the middle of the field. So this is stack, shift to leopard, double pass to snapper. Now, Gasham offense it's not perfect, okay? If I'm going to look at one thing, that's too long, way too long. We got to have a different name for that. But now we have, at least it's descriptive, leopard, double pass to snapper. Okay, next one. Fresno, shift to Louis, boom. We start off with Fresno, that as you see has a group of 4, a group of 4, and a group of 3, spread out along the field. And we shift into a formation where that's really tight, and right in here between C and G, we've got 5 people. We got 3 linemen, and we got 2 blockers right behind them, and the quarterback is going to carry the ball there. Could be a possible wildcat situation if you have a running back here and you put another blocker in the game, or you have your quarterback block. Whatever fits your personnel. This is good because you start off making the defense defend space. And you have width of the field, and they're all out there. And then all at once you shift quickly, and you shift back into this tight formation. And each time we're going to be snapping the ball after 1 second, just like always, just like coming out of the huddle. They will line up as fast as they can. Quarterback yells freeze. They're frozen for a second, and boom, you're running a powerful run right in between R and H. I can see where it would work because you're going from a defending space to defending power. Now, you could also do it the other way around. You could start with this formation, defending power, showing power to the defense, and shift down to Fresno, and then run a play from Fresno. So it's limitless what you can do, and in that situation, you'd be showing power and then shifting to space. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, this play is cat right, shift to NC State. And we start out in cat right, where you have your 6 guy grouping to the right, 2 in the middle, and 3 to the left, 3 receivers. And then we are going to shift back into a conventional formation, and we're going to run NC State, which is a play, a double flea flicker with 2 handoffs. Quarterback is going to give the ball to R. It's kind of hard to tell on this diagram, but you'll see a picture of it in a little bit, a video. And R will take the ball for a little bit, then he will pitch it to Z, who's coming back, and then Z will pitch it to the quarterback, who gets to a depth of about 12 yards, and he's going to throw the ball downfield. Y is taking a man to the inside, and H is delaying, taking his time, and then run a wheel route down the sideline. So that is NC State right here, and we are running it with a shift from cat right. Now, why did we pick cat right? Well, why not cat left? Well, we like this better for the main reason is that when we line up in this formation, and it looks like we're going to run from it, the defense is going to have most of their defensive backs to our left. But when we actually run this play, it is going to be a pass to our right. So we think we just got a better chance of getting fewer people over here to cover the pass if we go from cat right. And when we make our shifts, there's a couple things. Number one is we want to have them start out where their defensive backs, if it's a pass, they've got to go all the way across the field. Another thing that we want to do is we want to minimize the amount we have to run and maximize the amount the defense has to run. So our shift, sometimes we're going to have to run, but we want the defense to run more, and we want our players to relish in the thought that they are wearing these defensive linemen out. They are running, and then now they got to rush the passer. And it's a lot easier to pass protect against somebody who's tired than it is against somebody who is fresh. So that's cat right shift to NC State. And now we're going to show you NC State on video. Okay, this is the play NC State that we just talked about on the card, and it was tough to see it on the card, so I want you to see it on the screen. We have it here. The quarterback has just handed the ball to the running back behind him in the pistol, who has the ball now, and he's going to pitch it to Z, who has come from out here and is coming in this direction, and Z is going to pitch it back to the quarterback. Okay? For the receivers, there's a split end going deep, and there's a guy right with him. And the guy who's going to catch the pass is this number 1. He is biding his time now, spending some time, no reason to go downfield too quickly. And while they're passing the ball back and forth, he is just getting into position. So let's go a little farther. Now the ball's going back to the quarterback. You notice he's got a lot of depth. He's like 11 yards deep.
Trick play. The throwback to Finley.
And that's a Gasham play. He is all by himself, nobody within 15, 20 yards of him.
Samuels, he's got some green. Touchdown, NC State.
Now, you can see it even better on the replay, and you can see the defense better. There's a handoff going to the running back to start it. There's guy's going to catch the ball. And you'll notice the defense, there looks like it's a run this direction. Now it looks like it's coming back this way. Pitch it back. This guy's starting to rush the quarterback. This guy's starting, but they're back a ways. These other guys aren't rushing very hard. He's in no man's land. That guy, and he's the guy who is really probably supposed to be covering this receiver here. And probably right now is thinking, uh-oh, I think I made a big mistake. Because
39 yards. Dustin, you don't often see
he's going for a touchdown. So, I just wanted you to see that since we talked about it and since we had it on film. And let's now turn to a nugget. And this nugget is going to be, how did I get the Notre Dame job? People will ask that from time to time. And there are about 3 things that I'm going to share with you that maybe you could use in your own quests down the road. The first thing is when I was at Akron, for our team, I made up 6 position tapes. Defensive line, offensive line, wide receivers, different positions, and made those up for Akron players. And the way I did it is to have copied the games from the college bowl games and from the pro playoff games. And so I got some of the best players around at that time, name players, and I would catch them doing a technique that we were teaching, and so I put that on the tape. or I would see them doing something that was really something maybe we weren't teaching, but we could teach, that was like the next level up, that was pretty doggone good, that would be valuable. So I made these tapes and I made it up for Akron and we used them. And then I just had them laying there and I said, I wonder if I got another use for these. And the defensive line tape is the one I like the best. And so I copied 12 copies of that tape and I sent them out to 12 college head coaches that I would like to work for someday. Most of the big names at that time and people I respected. So I sent them out as a gift. I basically did not ask for anything. I just said, here, this is something I did for our defensive line. They seem to respond to it. If it can help you, great. And nothing more than that. So I sent a dozen out, and I think I got 3 responses back. And they were all very quick ones, and they didn't say anything other than, thanks for sending the tape. We haven't looked at it yet, but we're looking forward to it. Things like that. So I thought, haven't lost anything. That's okay. So then we go on. That was one of the things. Lou Holtz is one of the guys that I sent the tape to. And we are in my office. I'm coaching at Notre Dame. I've been there about 3 months at this point. Comes in, we're talking about something else. And all at once he says, that tape was really good that you sent me back a year or two ago. I said, oh, okay, good. I'm glad you liked it. He said, yeah, we used it a lot, and we found it real valuable. And that's when you became on my radar. That I knew that you existed, basically, and that you were a young coach to kind of keep an eye on. And so that was one thing that I think was helpful. Second thing is that I'm coaching at Akron and coaching as hard as I can, and we play Kent State University every year, and we had good luck against and good fortune against Kent. Defensive coordinator, we held them to very few points. Sometimes they really even had a team that scored a lot, but not against us is the way it worked out. So things just worked right. And Lou mentions that he's got some friends at Kent, their athletic director and some of the other people in the administration, who were talking with him about Terry Forbes and about how they can't score against Akron. And they're doing something at Akron that's pretty good. So he said, and that had an effect on him. So those are 2 things that I think probably put me on his radar as much as anything else. So I get a call, and it's in the middle of the week. I really didn't get it. It was to Jim Dennison. I was on the road recruiting, and Lou asked Jim some questions about me, and it says he'd like to interview me. So they kind of set it up that I'm going to go on Saturday, figuring that I would want to, and I did, go on Saturday to Notre Dame. So there's not much time in between Wednesday and Saturday, and I'm in the middle of recruiting season at Akron, so I've got a lot of things I got to do to get ready for the weekend before I go. And I asked Eric Shibler, one of our graduate assistants, if he would see if he could find a book that Lou Holtz wrote when he was head coach at North Carolina State. And Shib was a real thorough guy, and I knew he'd do a good job, so he went in search of this book. And he comes back on Friday, and Thursday and Friday, and both days he says, Coach, I looked all over. He was starting to tell me the places he looked. I said, Shib, I know you're a thorough guy. I know you gave a great effort. Couldn't find it. That's okay. We'll make do. And but I appreciate that. I know that you put the effort into it. So I figure I'm not going to get this book, and it's nothing gained, nothing ventured, nothing gained, I guess. So I wind up getting into the car, actually on the way to the airport on Saturday afternoon to go to Notre Dame. And Shib comes running up, and he's got this book held over his head. He says, Coach, I got it. And so he comes running up to the car and gives me this book that Lou Holtz wrote. And it was like, oh, great. Hey, thanks a lot, man. Everything great. Okay. I got to run to the airport, but, I'll see you when I get back. Boom. Get to the airport. Plane starts up. I settle in. I say, well, let me look at this book and see what I'm going to do with it. If any, what is there to see? So I decide I'm going to look at the philosophy chapters about a program. And I'm reading there, and one paragraph kind of stuck with me a little bit. This is Lou Holtz talking now, and he's head coach at North Carolina State now, much bigger school, but he's talking about he just got selected as head coach at William & Mary, his first head coaching job. And he is talking at the coaches convention where all the coaches in the country get together with a very prominent top head coach in the country. And he's talking with him, and the guy says something like, how do you see your program going at William & Mary? And Lou said something to the effect of, well, I don't know, one thing, I'm going to work my tail off. Nobody's going to work harder. I'm going to give it everything I have. As he starts to go on, the guy just stops him, says, Lou, William & Mary did not hire you to try really hard. William & Mary hired you to win football games and to have a good situation for their student athletes. That's what you got to do, and you got to find a way to do that, and all the other stuff doesn't matter. So Lou thought enough of this statement to put it in his book. And, I thought that, and I read on a little bit more. Get into South Bend, and wind up, after a connecting flight, it's fairly late at night. I have an address, which didn't make much sense to me, I remember. But a taxi drops me off, and at least I'm in Notre Dame, Indiana, which is not that big, so I know that I'm not too far away from where I'm supposed to be from this address. And it is a house, and taxi drops me off at this place, and then I see it's called the house. And I look at it, and it's kind of a small castle. It's kind of a neat place, stone, and I go on in and feel really good because I see kind of a reception desk, like a small one, but one you might see at a hotel or something. So I'm thinking, okay, yeah, this is probably the place. So I go in and give my name, and immediately the woman says, oh, yes, we're waiting for you. Did you have a good flight? Everything. Takes care of my luggage. She very personable, very nice to get there. She says, now, you could go upstairs, but we have a recruiting weekend, which I didn't know, a recruiting weekend going on. And Lou was just saying goodnight to the last set of parents. They're going up to bed, and he's probably going to be done in 4 or 5 minutes. He can maybe tell you where he wants to meet you tomorrow and stuff like that, because I'd shared with her that I didn't know anything other than to come to this house. She said, oh, okay. Yeah, that sounded good to me. I look around, and I see a nice room, and almost Lou comes up. He says, Terry, yeah, we shake hands and everything. And he says, well, I'm not doing anything right now. Do you want to start talking? And I said, sure. So he points me over, and there's an area, a beautiful room, and it's got a fireplace that's crackling. It's January in northern Indiana, so it needs to have a fireplace like that. Sofa on one side is where I sat, and the sofa on the other side was Lou, and turns out it's Vinny Serrato, who is his recruiting coordinator. I found out later he was the only other person on the staff at that time. So we sit down, and he starts asking some very tame questions, I guess, about my family and just different things about where I'd been and normal interview type stuff on a get to know you type situation. And then all of a sudden he said, and kind of out of the blue, said, "Who do you think would be the best person I could hire to be my defensive back coach?" And I thought of that excerpt in that book. And the words came out of my mouth. I don't think I even thought of it. They just came out. I'd like to think that would be me. And then we talked a little bit more. And as we talked, I realized the mood shifted. And coming in on the plane, I pretty much figured that there's going to be a lot of people for this job who have a lot of college experience, and I've got to win this job with something that I say or do or something that impresses Coach Holtz. Well, after that answer, it just changed. I could tell that it was my job if I didn't screw it up, So everything was different now. I didn't have to win it, and I didn't have to go out on limbs. The shorter the answers, the better. I didn't want to say anything controversial, and went to bed that night thinking, I got the job. Wake up in the morning, and he offers it to me over breakfast, and I am coaching at Notre Dame. And it was just kind of strange, but I think that one question was a pivotal point. If I'd have hemmed and hawed and said some different things, I don't know, but I don't know if it would have been the same way. But a short, brief answer of a confidence and that I could do it was, I think, what he needed to hear. So that, in a nutshell, perhaps are things that maybe you can use sometime in your quest to find a job down the road. Now, I promised to answer a question for you, and that is, why isn't anyone else running the Gasham offense or something very similar to the Gasham offense now? And I told you there were 3 answers to that. First answer will be for coaches who have a team. Coaches who have a team are responsible for 50 to 100 different guys. Ideally, you want to coach each guy to progress to the best level he can get to as a football player, as a student, as a person. You also have to deal with booster clubs, athletic directors, principals, a lot of different people. And this job is one takes all your time. You certainly don't have time to do what I did, spend 15 hours a week for 3 years investigating something that may or may not bear fruit. So nobody has the time who has a job to investigate and research an offense that is this different. Second reason, let's look at those coaches that don't have a team. And as my wife would say, if you don't have a team, nobody's that stupid to spend all the time that you spend on this. And I can understand her thoughts on the matter because I don't have a team, and yet I'm acting like I have one. But I just enjoy it, and I think I found something that is unique and will work, and that I wouldn't be able to stop. So I'm thinking not anybody else going to be able to stop it either, at least not for a while. So that's the second reason. The third reason is human nature. And in human nature, it doesn't matter if it's business, politics, coaching, whatever it is, most people will look at a job, this task. They got to improve their football team. Well, how do they do it? Most people take what is already there, what already exists, and try to tweak it and improve it and make it better to the point that they can uplift their program. That's what most people do. Very, very few people will look at it and try to find something new that does not exist that better fits the needs and can better accomplish their goals. Think about that. And that is the third reason. The Gasham offense is so different that people don't consider doing something completely different when there are other things that are out there that they can kind of latch onto and tweak. So those are the three reasons that nobody is running something like the Gasham offense, I believe. Okay, I want to urge you to contact me at any point, even if it's very brief. You're in your season, you're probably halfway through. You can say, I want to talk to you after the season, and here's my number. That would be great. For all of those of you who are just listening as fans and like football and find this interesting, God bless you. I appreciate you, and I'm happy to give you something that you think is of worth. Our next podcast, what we're going to do is to actually go through the play calls of an entire half of a game and how they would flow, how this game would flow, the thoughts that you might have, what you might do in different situations, and how these plays would work. So you get a better feel from beginning to end what the Gasham offense would look like, what it would feel like to never take your foot off the gas and to always keep going for a big play and a first down on every snap. So, have a great few weeks. Look forward to the next time we talk. Adios.